Okay, so back when I created Maxim Completum, the first game I 100%ed for it was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and doing that gave me an idea. Since I had played through one of the newer games in the Mario Kart series, I wanted to see how the older games stacked up. I wanted to see how the controls were, how the track design was, and if I could still have fun with the older games in comparison to the new ones. And so that is what I'm going to do today. We are going to be 100%ing Mario Kart 64 for the N64. To 100% the game, we need to collect the gold trophy at the end of every cup in 50, 100, 150cc, and mirror mode. We need to do every single time trial race, and we need to beat the 3 hidden time trial ghosts, which you unlock by beating certain time trial races under a set amount of time. Now, this is a game that I have not played in over a decade, so I knew that I was going to have a little bit of difficulty getting used to the controls again. But at the end of the day, I wanted to see how well the game controlled, how well the tracks were designed, and if I could still have fun with the game despite not having played it in over a decade. Perfectly written and totally not segmented segue incoming, but if you would like to see the full unedited version of this playthrough, you could check it out on the LP Max YouTube channel, which I will link in the description down below. I also have playlists for every other game that I've 100%ed on there, so if you would like to see any of my previous playthroughs, you could check them out there. Also, I livestream completing different video games on my Twitch channel, which will also be down in the description below. So if you would like to see these types of videos come out before anyone else sees them, be sure to check out the streams and catch them early. Getting started with the game, I decided to do everything that needed to be done in 50cc before moving on to 100, and then doing the same before moving on to 150, and so on and so forth. And so I selected Mario and began the Mushroom Cup in 50cc, where I very quickly noticed something about the controls. Mario Kart 64's controls are very slippery compared to Mario Kart 8, which ended up taking me a little bit of time to get used to. But once I got used to them, it made steering and especially drifting a lot more fun. Honestly, close to the same amount of fun that I would have drifting in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. But with all that said, the Mushroom Cup didn't give me any issues. I finished first place, got a perfect 36 points, and got the first gold trophy of the run, which gives me the perfect opportunity to explain how to get gold trophies in Mario Kart 64. The way to get gold trophies or gold stars in the Mario Kart series depends on what game you're playing. Some games have very easy requirements where all you have to do is win every race, and then some games require you to drive pretty much perfectly in order to get those 3 stars. But thankfully, Mario Kart 64 is one of the very easy ones, where all you have to do to get a gold trophy is to finish first at the end of the Grand Prix. You don't have to win every single race. Hell, you could even finish 4th in a race. As long as you have the most points at the end of the Grand Prix, you are guaranteed to get a gold trophy. Which ended up being a blessing because some of the later courses in this game are very tough to get first place in. And speaking of courses that are difficult to get first place on, Toad's Turnpike in the Flower Cup is probably the most difficult course for me to play for some reason. It's not even a complicated course, most of it is either drifting in the same direction or driving in a straight line, but for whatever reason, the rubber banding on the CPU is a lot more noticeable on this track compared to other ones. Combine that with the fact that I was still very rusty from not playing the game for over a decade, this was one of the harder courses for me to master. But eventually I was able to beat the race and move on to the other levels in the Flower Cup, where I finished the Grand Prix with 36 points and got the second gold trophy, before moving on to the next cup in the game, the Star Cup. The Star Cup is probably the most difficult course in the entire game for me, and the one that I struggled the most on by far, Sherbert Land. I don't know what it is with this level, it might be the ice physics, it might be the way that the course is designed, but I struggled a lot on this course, both in 50cc and in the harder difficulties. This was consistently the most difficult course for me to master, and it ended up with me having to reset a couple of times due to not placing high enough in the rankings. But eventually I was able to get first place in it and move on to one of my favorite courses in the Mario Kart series, the Royal Raceway. This has been one of my favorite courses in the entire series ever since I first played it, and there's just something so nostalgic about it. The music is awesome, the skybox is beautiful, and you're able to drive up to Peach's castle and explore it. There's a lot of love and passion that was put into this track, and it's one of my favorites in the series by far. And I'm happy that not only was I able to play it again, but I was able to get first place in it. Moving on to the last course of the Star Cup, Bowser's Castle is another one that I had a lot of childhood memories with. My older sister and I would often play a game of chicken with the Thwomps, trying to see who could get the closest to them without getting hit. This is one of the courses that I really hope Nintendo ends up bringing back at some point, as I think it has a lot of potential, especially with the new mechanics that the Mario Kart series has introduced. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to get first place on this one. I ended up getting second place and ending the Star Cup with 33 points, which while it was enough for me to get the gold trophy and to move on, it did sting a little bit knowing that I wasn't able to perfect the cup the way that I wanted to. But I decided to lick my wounds and to move on to the final cup of 50cc, the Special Cup. Yoshi Valley for the longest time was my favorite course in the entire series bar none. All of its different paths and winding turns are a lot of fun to experiment and try to find which one is the fastest, and not knowing which place you're in until you cross the finish line is a very neat touch that I wish the series brought back. Unfortunately for this playthrough, I did not perform well at all on this track, and I kept hitting the spinies and falling off. But despite that, I was still able to get first place on it and move on to one of the most underrated courses in Mario Kart history, Banshee Boardwalk. If someone were to ask me if there was any course in Mario Kart 64 that I would want them to bring back, this would be the course that I would pick. The constant drifting, driving through the abandoned building, and the boots taking up your vision were all really cool gimmicks that I would love to see come back. This is, in my opinion, one of the best courses in Mario Kart history, and it felt so good being able to play the track again, even if I ended up getting 4th place on it. Moving on to the last course, the N64 version of Rainbow Road is probably the most iconic one, with its countless music references in later games and the fireworks showing the different characters in the skybox. This course, despite being the longest one in the game, ended up being the one that I looked forward to the most at the end of every Special Cup, because I knew that once I reached Rainbow Road, it was a clear sign that I was going to make it, since even though it is such a long course, it is possibly the easiest course in the game. And so I was able to drive through it with relative ease and get first place, securing my win with 28 points and getting the final gold trophy for 50cc. Moving on to 100cc, I decided to swap to Luigi for the Mushroom Cup to get a change of pace from playing as Mario. In standard fashion, 100cc is faster than the version I was just playing, so it did take a little bit of time to get used to the controls again, but it wasn't enough from keeping me winning every single race, securing a perfect 36 points and getting the first gold trophy in 100cc. With that said, I cannot say the same thing happened for the Flower Cup. The first 2 races surprisingly went pretty okay, especially considering Toad's Turnpike was always a course that I struggled with. But once I got to Choco Mountain, everything started falling apart. Ended up getting hit, ended up falling off, ended up getting so far behind I almost restarted the cup. But I was able to finish in the top 4 and move on to Mario Raceway, where I was able to get first place and squeeze out the gold trophy for Flower Cup. And speaking of me getting in the top 4, I think I should probably explain how the ranking system works in Mario Kart 64 since I didn't actually do that earlier. Mario Kart 64 has an interesting ranking system that is divided into 2 tiers, the ones who move on and the ones who automatically fail. If you are within the top 4 in any race, you automatically move on to the next one, regardless on how many points you have or how many points you have accumulated. However, if you get 5th place or lower in any race, regardless on what your overall standing is, you automatically get disqualified from the Grand Prix, where you have to either start the Grand Prix over or you could start the race over in order to try to redeem yourself and to get a better time. It is an interesting mechanic that I don't think ever really gets brought back in the later games, but it is a mechanic that I wanted to bring up because it will be relevant later. But as for the Star Cup, I ended up doing pretty decently until Sherbet Land, where at the end of the second lap, I ended up falling off and heading to the bottom of the pack. Thankfully, I was able to catch up a little bit in the final lap, but only managed to scrape out 4th place, just barely qualifying for the next race. At this point, I was a little bit concerned. I was in 2nd place overall in the rankings and I had 2 courses left. I had to perform extremely well in order to get the gold trophy. So let's move on to Royal Raceway, the next cup in the Prix. I ended up having a pretty rough final lap, but was able to bring it back thanks to a golden mushroom that shot me into 1st place, albeit by less than a second. That one 1st place allowed me to get top of the rankings, even if it was just by 1 point. All I had to do was to make sure I beat Peach in Bowser's Castle. And starting off, it immediately went wrong. Ended up getting hit by multiple throps and getting knocked backwards to where I was constantly behind the opposition. It wasn't until the end of the final lap where I was able to actually pull ahead and stay ahead of the person in 2nd place, securing me 28 points by the end of the Grand Prix, getting another gold trophy, and taking off a couple years of my life because of how stressed I was with those final 2 races. With my hard-fought victory in hand, I ended up swapping to Mario for the final cup in 100cc, where I ended up discovering that you could activate a speedometer, something that I didn't know was even in the game until now. There's also a cool border showing where everyone is on the map related to you. All of these were things that I didn't even know existed until I just started randomly pushing buttons during this race. And speaking of the race, this one was extremely close, as in within half a second of finishing in front of the other person. The difficulty was definitely beginning to spike up, and heading into Yoshi Valley, I was a little bit worried considering I didn't really play well in it during 50cc. And unfortunately, the same thing happened here. I kept bonking into walls, bonking into the spikes, and falling off of the map. I ended up being so far behind the person in first place that I decided just to focus on maintaining second place, which I was able to achieve. After that was Banshee Boardwalk, which I was able to get first in, and then the victory lap around Rainbow Road, netting me a total of 33 points and the final gold trophy for 100cc. And with that, we were officially halfway done with the Grand Prix of the game, and I decided to celebrate by immediately hopping into 150cc. 150cc has always been my bread and butter when it comes to Mario Kart games, so I was able to get through Mushroom Cup without any difficulty. Flower Cup on the other hand was a different story, all due to Toad's Turnpike. Just like in the earlier difficulties, Toad's Turnpike gave me a lot of difficulty in the race, but I was able to eventually squeeze out a third place and move on to the next course in the cup. And thankfully the rest of Flower Cup went pretty well. Choco Mountain I ended up getting second place in, but the other two races I got first and it wasn't really close. And so with the golden trophy from the Mushroom and Flower Cups collected, we were officially halfway done with 150cc. Star Cup went pretty well until the final race of Bowser's Castle, where I ended up finishing under the top 4, which disqualified me from the rest of the Grand Prix. But like I mentioned earlier, due to the retry system in Mario Kart 64, I was able to retry the race and get first place in it, allowing me to get 33 points in the Grand Prix in total and get the gold trophy at the end. And with that, all I had left was the Special Cup, which went very well. After getting the gold trophy in that, I unlocked the Mirror Mode difficulty, which allows you to play through the courses in reverse in 150cc. In addition to unlocking Mirror Mode, we also unlock a brand new title screen for beating the game in 50, 100, and 150cc. But moving on to the actual races, there's not much I need to say about Mirror Mode. It plays the exact same as 150cc except the courses are flipped, and I didn't really have any difficulty on them. And so before I show off getting the final golden trophy, here is a quick montage of me going through some of the races in Mirror Mode. With Mirror Mode done, we have collected every single gold trophy in Mario Kart 64, and that normally would count being the end of the game. But because I like to go above and beyond what the game requires, there is one last thing that I wanted to do, and that was completing every single time trial in the game. You see, every single course in Mario Kart 64 has its own time trial that you could beat. But after beating the required time of 3 different courses, you are able to unlock 3 hidden time trial ghosts. Those ghosts will show up on Luigi's Raceway once you get sub 152, Mario Raceway after getting a sub 130, and Royal Raceway after getting a sub 240. I wanted to not only do every single time trial, but also wanted to beat every single time trial ghost. And so I selected Toad as my character because he is arguably the best one for time trial, and I went to work doing that, which didn't take long at all considering I had a ton of practice after Grand Prix. But with all of that done, we have collected every single gold trophy, we have beaten every single time trial, and have beaten every single time trial ghost. Mario Kart 64 has officially been conquered. Thank you all so much for watching the video. If you got this far and you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. It's free, it helps out the channel a lot, and you could always unsubscribe at any time. If you want to see these types of completion videos before they come out on YouTube, I livestream a bunch of my completions on Twitch, which you could find in the description down below. Also, if you would like to see the full unedited version of this playthrough, you could find it on the LP Max YouTube channel, which will also be linked down below. This game was a big part of my childhood, and I'm really happy that I was able to replay it again. And at the end of the day, even if this game doesn't quite hold up to the newer games in the series, I still have a lot of fun with it, and I definitely want to come back to this game and play it in my off time once in a while. But with all that said, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a blessed day.